Good afternoon, America. God bless you all. What a glorious week it has been here in America these past few days. Finally, our judicial system got it right and got rid of the tyranny and the unfairness of affirmative action that goes right against the word of the Lord and the equal protection laws in the 14th Amendment. That equal protection clause applies to everybody, and I thank God, and I think all people win on this.
Are you sure, Jim, that all the little people win?
I think so, because now people of all races, all walk of life will know that they made the merit, that they got there on their own hard work, their own ability. They didn't need this permanent, perpetual crutch.
Entitlement, Jim?
Entitlement, yes, EW, and a sense of bigotry that you need this assistance because of that. And now young children, and this is what's really about the younger people, the kids coming up today, they now know that they are equal. They don't need this. They're not institutionalized and brainwashed from a young age that they need the extra effort. That a minority kids, I don't know what you call a minority now. Half the kids growing up in America now are non-white.
People of color, Jim.
People of color, people of all colors, and I love it all. All the people bring something together. And now people will be judged by their ability, not the color of the skin, the way the good doctor always said it would be. That'll be hard work and study that gets you through. And then the rest of society will know that that person got that position, became a pilot, became a doctor, all these things because they were good at what they do. Let's get back to the world of excellence. We are there, people. America is not a discriminatory racist place unless you are on the wokest cultural Marxist side that want to tear down the system so that they can have preferential treatment for their people because they want this a perpetual sense of payback there, EW.
Who are you talking about? We, them.
Them. I'm talking about the Frankfurt School Marxists, the socialists, the Al Sharptons of the world, the Jesse Jacksons who peddle race, who claim that they're always being oppressed, that they look at everything through the lens of oppressor and those oppressed. That's the way cultural Marxism works. That's what woke is about, is that you have to have certain groups not that are going to get preferential treatment over other groups. It's not about the autonomy and the sovereignty of the individual, which America is about. We live in a classless, non-caste society, as Chief Justice Roberts, who got it right in his opinion this week of tearing down the affirmative action law. And let me give you all people a little history lesson. Do you know when affirmative action started? I bet you don't. It was in 1961 under the great President JFK. And in that instance, when it came out, it was not about getting people preferential quotas or treatments or percentages. It was an outreach program to encourage people to go out and try new things, open up the possibilities for employment and opportunities of minorities and women so they could compete more effectively. It wasn't to give them a hand up or preferential treatment, how it metastasized in the schools, which is unconstitutional. The 14th Amendment does not give you the right to have an advantage over me just because on skin color.
Well, we don't live in South Africa, Jim.
No, we don't live in South Africa. That's right. We don't live in apartheid. We live in America. You can be all you want to be. People have equal protection and opportunity under the law. What you get is up to you. You need to manifest this. We talk about this all the time, but it finally materialized on a 6-3 vote. And then we had the ideological justices, Kagan, Jackson, and Sotomayor. Unfortunately, the former went to my beloved Yale, but on the other hand, Gorsuch and Samuel Alito did too. You know what? It's really a fresher breath there for everybody. Now, young people should move on, and if they want to complain, they should complain about K through 12 in the teacher unions that keep the people in these inner cities away from choice to have any opportunity to have a really good education, have choice in the schools that the parents can do. They don't want to have the parents control. They don't think the parents are smart enough to even raise their own kids. They want to raise them the way they think it is and have the control so they can keep getting paid, keep their numbers up in these school districts, which are completely corrupt, with people making six figures, and none of the kids ever read on grade level. Half our children can't even read on grade level. We got all kinds of kids getting into colleges who don't even have basic reading skills, DW. That blowers down the whole thing. We have to fundamentally strive of a meritocracy and make sure we get back to the world of excellence, the way this country could be once again, I think.
Are you sure about that, Jim? Now, what about all the little people like us who have to sweep up the church or fucking drive the... Ooh! I used a bad word, Jim.
EW, shame on you. We don't use profanity here. I know we get passionate, But the people that have to work hard, you know what? That gives you grit. That gives you discipline. I had to work hard. I swept. I did tasks of corn when I was 12 years old with people of all different walks of life in the Midwest. I was happy to do it because I was making money. I shoveled snow. I had a job all through high school that I had to pay for my own car with, and I still managed to pay my own way through college. You know what? And a lot of people that looked like me had to do the same thing, and it didn't matter, and we didn't really think about the whole race thing. We were already past it.
What about delivering newspapers and shit like that?
I did that too.
Yeah.
The whole World Herald there, W. You know what? We learned to work hard. And back then, it didn't matter if you were a little wealthy than other people. It's what you did and who you were that mattered. What happened to that? I tell you what happened to that. There's a cultural Marxist shift. As when we won the Cold War, World War II, at the end of World War II.
Those wars,
yeah, the Cold War from 1945 to 1991. We might have defeated communists in the Soviet Union, but we didn't in academia. Ironically, that's when cultural Marxism started to take off. And Clydesdale, the guy that came up with the woke, this is when it really started hitting the universities, the late 80s or early 90s, because, look, these people are stuck on having a grievance society. No greater example than Miss Moore's committee here in reparations of California want to give away, $14,000 per year for people who lived here from 1850 to 2020, even though
that's unconstitutional, Jim.
Yeah, and also for health disparities, all these things that we have to pay the descendants of these people as if, even though you didn't have the harm happen to you, but your family did, you should get the money for that. Because of the will.
Right, Jim. What is going on?
Who's going to pay for it? It's all about, and they want to give every possibility of loans, free education. There's hundreds of examples. It's a total transfer of wealth because these people feel they're owed because they were mistreated, and that the people who didn't do this to anybody need to pay for it for past sins. This is an untenable model, and it's actually a proposal actually go to the governor of California. And I can tell you this, CW, if that happens in this land of Sodom and Gomorrah, millions of people will leave, and there will be the implosion of the state like you will never believe. It will be outrageous. Look, we've all had to go through
things. You think the Jews will leave too?
Dude, I think anybody who pays taxes will leave, who has any sense of justice and correctness. There were people from Italy, from Ireland, Germany, who were also very well mistreated and stuff like that too. Now, I understand the African-American experience, if you want to look at it in terms of everything through race, had a really rough road. We all know that. And things have been done already. And also the Japanese, the internment camp, and the Holocaust victims. Yes, there were certain payments paid for that. But what this is just wholesale in a state that was free. And look, I understand that it's a nifty argument, but it's not going to roll. Let's get back to some basics, Well, we hold these truths to be sacred and undeniable. Thomas Jefferson, who loved his slaves like family. And that's a complicated issue, but he wrote the Declaration of Independence, which I gotta say, it's alarming that our own president quoted the Declaration of Independence but cited it as the U.S. Constitution, and he couldn't even get the words right. That's pretty bad. When you got the leader of this country can't even distinguish between the U.S. Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. That's pretty pitiful.
Well, those are two different documents, Jim.
Yeah, well, he conflated the two. I mean, look, there's no way this man has any command of the facts, any ability to lead. He's cognitively in decline, and I think they may have to invoke that 25th Amendment. And it's a sad day in America where you got people behind the curtain running things that are actually, unelected and very much determined to undermine the system, and is all into this. Don't forget, equity woke mean one thing. That means transfer of wealth. Under the means of socialism, and I would say in a mild manner. But basically, let's get real to real, God is real, and we will be judged one day by a higher order, and it's a way that we can't really quite understand. I mean,
Amen, Jim.
I look in the Holy Bible, I look for all different types of religion, but they all gravitate to one immutable truth, and that God is real, and we will be judged. Not only by him, but by history, our descendants. And I just think, right now we need to have some transformational leadership, EW. People with ideas who can bring people together. We still compete, but we still unified. Let's think about historically what worked in America and what doesn't work here and in certainly other countries.
Well, can you judge your friends and family like God judges us?
you can judge people if you want, but you know what we got to do? We got to come together in a sense that we agree to move forward in a civil society that has worked. In America, the capitalistic self-actualization model where people can really exchange ideas in the public square and move forward in a merit-based system works, with rights to express yourself, and that the government works for the people. The people are not subjugated by these many tyrants running all over the place here on a local, state, and federal level. I mean, we have to we have to counter this whole ideology that puts people in competing grievance groups and basically shouts out and has to shut down any individual voice, and is counter to everything in the First Amendment and all those that came after. Yeah, that's correct. So, so also let's get to the thing about gender. There are two genders, okay? That is it, all right? All this moral relativism, all these different genders, come on. It's people with two different genders who may have an interesting lifestyle. They're unique individuals, but they're only two genders, and we can't actually use this means to trash women's sports and really subjugate women to come up with this whole non-binary mindset and let a small fraction of people redefine the fundamental tenets of society. Again, this is all part of the design to uproot and smash the system and create a new one, just like what they're doing here in corporate America and everything. This is a wholesale war on your individual sovereign, which, by the way, a former president, not too long ago, President Obama, was caught on tape saying we must end the individual sovereign, okay? Look, he is a part of this cabal that want to take your rights, CW, and everybody else out there listening. Yeah, well, I tell you what, he also said something pretty funny. And this quote came out. It's kind of embarrassing for Mr. Obama that if you're a white boy, look, we understand what's going on, but you black boys with a book, that's being too white, and basically paraphrasing Mr. Obama. I mean, so he has said some things that are just off the cart. And then Michelle Obama is now whining, oh, now it's going to be harder for people that look like me to get into law schools and stuff. Not only is this insulting to my brothers and sisters of any race, but it really is incredible that you guys lack the self-confidence of your own people. And it's also racist. You are being actually bigoted that we have to break things down. And you are the quintessential racist to even say something like that. So I think it's great. I'm done with this stuff. I think most 6 in 10 Democrats, if you can believe this, don't want affirmative action. It's met its course. What's happened? We've had 60 years to do it. And, look, I think whatever good it could do, and there was some things that I think it did do early on where a lot of people were not allowed to get into certain professions. But the ones that did well of different races, and they studied real well, they never needed it in the first place, and it did create opportunities for certain people that would not have them. That was a good thing, but we are way beyond that.
So, Jim, you think affirmative action is unconstitutional?
Of course it is. It was declared so by the U.S. Supreme Court, which, by the way, 3 of those judges, Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch, and our lady from...
A woman of color?
No, the lady from Notre Dame, all voted for it. So really, Donald J. Trump's court, U.S. Supreme Court, put the nail on affirmative action, put a nail on bigotry, white liberal bigotry of failure, and really got through the notion now is the greatest victory since probably the 19th century, or 90 years since now originalists are really back on the court in the history of this great republic. So one big for Donald J. Trump. Another big victory, we talked about two genders, and they conflate this on the left, was the baker in Colorado who won the case that they did not have to do a gay betting cake inscribed on the cake. They would sell them the cake, but they were not they won the First Amendment. They're not compelled to write something that's against their beliefs. That's the fundamental First Amendment. And what does the left do? They make this something against gay marriage. It had nothing to do with that. It has to do with somebody having been forced to be compelled to say and do what the government tells you or someone else tells you to do. That is tyranny. That is communism. That's wokeism. That's Maoism. You have to do it. It's like the little red book in the Cultural Revolution in Mao, China in 1968, and that's what they're trying to do here in America. They're trying to make America great again. So damn these blasphemous fools.
Amen.
This is America. It's red, white, and blue. It's not red China. It ain't red Lenin. It ain't Stalin. It's America. This is Reagan's America. This is, JFK's America. And I tell you, that brother RFK, he's 68, and look at that boy bench press and do push-ups. He brings common sense back.
All right, Jim, calm down.
So don't tell me about anything else what we got to do here. We are free people. I love America as Americans. I love all people, and we have got to stop this division, that artificial wall put between our brothers and sisters that the left has done through wokeism. They want to control because you know what? They are fearful. They are fearful that they have to get a real job, go out and create real value, and to compete like everybody else has to do. But you people, all my brothers and sisters, all my children, listen to Uncle Jim. It's Uncle Jim now. We can come together and rise above all of it. Not only does a tide rise all things, but we have the tools now that you can actually become wealthy if you just work hard and come together. Yeah, let's change the government. The Social Security, there are some problems in government. That these third rail of a federal government and all these entitlement spending, let's take that. Did you know most 75% of the federal government, while we're going in debt, is these bloated entitlement programs that are paid out, that pay this huge administration? It's wasteful spending, no rate of return, and doesn't really enforce the real efficient investment America is bestowed to have. No, it hinders it. We can do just the opposite. All that money that you put in Social Security, EW, what if that went into American companies?
Well, that sounds like a great idea, Jim.
Yeah, since 1870, you get 8% return. What do you get under Social Security? Like 1%? How much you going to get? A couple grand? Would you like to have 10, 15,000 rather than 2,000 every month?
Of course, Jim.
Well, you could have had that if we would have just done what our good brother, Dr. Jose Panera, has done down in South America. Our brother there knows what he's doing. Chicago Milton Friedman school guy. Well, we're going to do that here in America. It's called the USA Plan. Universal savings accounts for everybody. From the day you were born, all that money, 7.5% of what
no matter how much working you did, Jim?
Yeah, but you know what? The more work you do, the more you put in. And you know what's cool about this program? Not only are you going to get about 7% return, which means that money doubles every 10 years, but over a 40-year lifetime, you say you made $50,000 a year, you put $7,500 into this program, it's kind of like a forced 401k. But the difference is it goes into American companies. You're insured to have just as much money as you ever would have had under Social Security under the old plan. It's supplemental. And that money is used to reinvest in areas of strategic need and vision and comparative advantage for the American economy, which will only fuel more jobs, more wealth, and turn this two-cylinder pipsqueak American behemoth into the 8-cylinder V8 classic Corvette ride of the future, baby. Woo!
But should we bring all that back to our sovereign territory?
Absolutely, and our interests and our friends.
200 miles?
No, or 7,000 miles in the wrong direction, the east, that's right. We bring it back to the United States and our allies and our interests, and we bring it back to free people country who do not engage in slave labor. If people want to get into about the grievances of the world, take it somewhere else.
Well, not Diego Garcia, Jim. That's in the middle of the Indian Ocean. That's our biggest naval base in the world. We don't belong there, Jim.
We have 800 bases. China has 2. What are we going to do about those bases?
Close them all and bring them back to our sovereign territory, Jim.
Why don't we lease them out and get paid for them? But the other people can do their work for them, protect themselves.
Lease them out to slaves, whatever you want to do.
We don't encourage enslavement.
I'm sorry.
Emancipation.
Darker-skinned servants.
DW. Yeah, I think you need to go back into the tent for a little bit. Now, I'll tell you this. But by doing that, not only will people become wealthy, but we then give them a little choice here. So they put some of the money they put into that they have a choice where they want to put that money for their tax dollars to help America.
Like pro-choice like abortion?
No. Like some choice, like when you have a choice where you put your money in your Charles Schwab account, wherever your index fund, you can have a little bit of choice where your tax dollars are going. How about that?
Okay, Jim. I guess that makes sense.
And you get to see the return on that.
Okay, Jim.
And you get to see the return on what you're doing with your Social Security, and so you can have fun. And this replaces the topic of conversation about who's right or wrong and all these talking points that are dumbed down by these academics who really say the same retread arguments I've heard 40 years ago, and they still don't work, and they still don't hold water. I don't know how they get paid. And we get back to teaching the humanities of the real wisdom of Western civilization and how it turned on people to read and things. You know why England became such a great country, powerhouse?
Because they had a queen, Jim.
No, what happened in the 17th century that changed everything?
We had a revolution against them.
No, we're talking the 17th century, not the 18th century.
Oh, what happened, Jim? Tell us.
Shakespeare. people said reading books, the Reformation.
Shakespeare was earlier than that, Jim.
No. 17th century, early 17th century is Shakespeare.
All right,
1670. Okay,
You must be right.
late 16. Well, he died in 1616. But not only Shakespeare, the whole revival, but the Reformation. People started reading. People in the Bible, and so people had print, and so
the
knowledge
Renaissance.
started. Well, the British Renaissance, a little after the Italian Renaissance. But come on, it's not laughable. You got to understand these things. So that's what really changed everything. Shakespeare did that, the way people could communicate, read, write, connect. Well, we need to get back to some of these basics here because we have a problem. We don't have a real solidified language. We have people that don't know their history. I think one of the great ideas by Vivek is that, there's a 128 questionnaire for immigrants who want to come in here legally, right?
Well, of course it has to be.
Well, in our high school kids, actually U.S. citizens growing up in our school systems, by the time they get done, K through 12, 86% of them would fail that same test. And I kid you not, you go back 50 years, when I was that age, right, I get 86% of the kids would pass that same test.
I hope so, Jim.
Yeah, well, and that's without the internet or anything else. So basically, another thing that we have to think about here is, I like what Vivek said, reverse racism is racism. And that's what happened here with and we got rid of that. We're going to get rid of racism. It's going to be about a meritocracy. And I think in many ways we've already gone past that way. But this is it's very interesting to see the response of the left saying, oh, no, it's going to bring us back to Jim Crow and all this nonsense. They just want to have control over the narrative thinking and keep this grievance society that they're comfortable in getting paid with. Okay, and that leads us to education. Parents determine the education of their children. Absolutely. And that's what we got to get back to, parents being involved. We look now at homeschool kids doing much better than the public schools, and parents have the opportunity to get their kids to go to a much better school. This will help out the minorities, the kids in the inner city to break out. We know this through all evidence, all empirical and anecdotal, EW. So
that's great, Jim. Now, what else can you tell the people at home today?
Well, we're going to shut down the border, too, with the fentanyl and the human trafficking. 300 people die every day, about 110,000 a year by fentanyl, right?
That's really a crime.
That's crime. That's twice as many people one year that died in all of Vietnam.
That's a lot of crime.
Well, in 7 years, there'll be about 6 years, there'll be as many as people died in the Civil War.
What does that mean for everyone at home, Jim?
But that means we're at war, and we have to take things in our own hands. It's a different type of war, fueled by the Chinese, who send all their ingredients over to the cartel Mexico, and for some reason, these buffoons in Washington, D.C., they want more and more people to come in because they think they're going to get votes, and at the cost of our sovereignty, our health, and our safety. It doesn't matter to them. The more the crisis gets, the better it is for them in terms of their need in justifying bigger budgets, bigger control, and more of a tyrannical, state-controlled society. That's what we have.
All right, Jim. What else can we give our friends at home today?
Just remember that U.S. Constitution is the strongest guarantor of freedoms in history, and it just showed today. So getting back to this whole thing, so now people have a freedom of expression. They can't be compelled to write and do things that they don't want. It seems like that's common sense, doesn't you think, EW? Don't you think that's what everybody should have?
Of course, Jim. Everyone should have the same inalienable rights.
Right, but we got a two-tier system. We got a Department of Justice that will do everything to go after Donald J. Trump on trumped-up charges that have no basis, and they'll do everything to protect their guy in office when there is ample evidence of wrongdoing that we've never seen else ever in the executive branch in U.S. history. So, I can't be higher in terms of duplicity than that. And that's what we got to think about here. Now you have a same situation here where certain people's rights are protected, others are not. This has happened in other countries, but just not here in America on a wholesale basis.
So, like in South Africa, they have Afrikaners. Those are Dutch.
Right.
Colonists.
That's right.
Who came to South Africa many hundreds of years ago.
That's correct.
And so they still have apartheid in that country.
Yeah, and you know what? They're doing things to rectify that. In fact, in South Africa, you have black leaders and stuff after Mandela, which I supported, and I get rid of that system. It's great. Now what you do is have the reverse. You have decolonization. So these people are now going to France and Dutch and trying to have them remove their history, and it's now like this big game of payback.
And what about all this violence in France?
That's correct. So that's part of the same thing, and very interesting. We have cars. It's much like the George Floyd moment 3 years ago here.
That's right, Jim.
They picked up on this. Hey, look, let's take off this. So remember, cultural Marxism came from the Frankfurt School in 1861. 1921. I'm thinking of the Civil War started in 1861. 1921. It was funny also, President Biden was talking about the Civil War in 1960. He got that wrong. I mean, come on, man, Joe. But hey, look, at least you correct yourself. I don't think he really, it's pretty sad. But no, so that really, the Frankfurt School is like, hey, look, we got to, it really comes from Leninism and Stalinism, Maoism. These are the communists in the Frankfurt School that have really infiltrated the Solinskyite mantra, George Soros' way, that we have to have control. These people, it's a big aphrodisiac. I understand the power is that aphrodisiac. I like the power of the microphone. I like the power of spreading goodwill and freedom of expression and encouragement to others. These people want to be masters of your universe and everybody else's. That's the big rub. That's the big difference. So you just think for yourself, rise up, and in America on this 4th of July weekend, never, ever feel like you're compelled to think one way or another, but respect other people's opinion. Don't resort to hate, violence, because you will never get anywhere with that. You will only become a smaller version, ever smaller version of yourself. You could actually ruin your life and your families too. You know, do what Abe Lincoln has always taught me, is even your perceived enemy, opponent, or even adversary, make them your friends. And when you try that, sometimes they're your best friends, because you confuse your wonderful ideas and all the God-given talent you had in a way that was unexpected. And that kind of catharsis and psychology is a very beautiful thing, and that what made America come together. Even after the big Civil War, what did we do? We came together. And it's really been quite a ride. And there were some problems. Yes, there were some really inequities, but we have solved that. Now we have a chance to fulfill the vision. A quarter of a millennia after that great document that was read there and finally signed on August 2nd, 1776, not July 4th. It was finally done on August 2nd, FYI. And I think now we're finally about there. The tools are there, and I think the people, the culture is there, but we got to go back and retreat and refurbish our schools with real education and knowledge, not conditioning, brainwashing, limbic gland, cultural Marxism, anti-American, and falsehoods that are constantly being taught all across the land in the dumbed down youth, where we're at the bottom of our education. It is an absolute embarrassment, and basically the people behind this and behind this 1619 project and all this other stuff should be ashamed of themselves. Do you know in Baltimore, EW, the school system there's I think one high school kid, 18 years old, in the public system that is on math on normal level.
Well, that's a sin, Jim.
And I remember when I was like about 11 years old, I was on that 12th level, no problem, you know, because it's really, and that's because my parents, and I had a good school. Back then they taught you, and it didn't matter whether you liked it or not or what you did, you had to learn. You had to learn basics of the reality and build a foundation so you could think for yourself. Not what to think, but how to think, and I think that's another thing. And that nuclear family, people laugh about it, but it's the greatest form of governance known throughout of mankind. That's another thing Vivek tells us. So this young man, and he's a Hindu. Now, I'm not much into Hinduism or Buddhism, although I've been over to that part of the world, and I've learned a thing or two, and we've exchanged some of our ways. And I got to tell you, there's some common overlap that made me a stronger, more spiritually inclined man. How about you?
Assalamu alaikum, Jim.
Ah, yes, and the three prayers for the Buddhist way, yes, and to really understand, and in a very civil people, you know, maybe a little more civil than we are.
Why, I hear them pounding on the door of the church here, Jim. I think they're telling us we have to go tonight.
Oh, we have to go, yes, right. We got to get ready for the fireworks and everything else like that. So just remember, you know, a rise in all tides is what we need to do. We can't have big tech tell us what to do. We kind of need to be broken up like a monopoly, they're a utility.
Like AT&T?
Yeah, they're like AT&T, exactly, or Standard Oil. You know, it's time to break these guys up and have more competition and have forums where people can really exchange their ideas and stuff. You know, Vivek, you know, was kicked off LinkedIn because LinkedIn didn't agree with his ideas and stuff like that. Then they said, oh, sorry, it was some technicality. That was totally dishonest. Come on. And LinkedIn actually makes a little bit of money on a margin. So anyway, let's let it go. I'll be back again, and I just want to say God bless America. And, you know, there's a capitalistic way to fix Social Security, and we will learn more about that coming in. That's going to be my big plan here, so we can learn more. So make sure you give to your family. Take care of everybody else. God bless you. God bless America.
Amen, Jim.
We love you. Thank you, EW. Thank you, everybody. God bless America.